Trilly on my soul. I'm the most selfish person that I know. Here we go, down the rabbit hole. Got a couple carrots around my neck. Self-respect, when you out of line, you put yourself in check.
We're live. Welcome back to Mess Level. It's your boy, it's your boy Scarface. And today I've been excited to do this episode just because a lot of people have been messaging me. They've been commenting. They've been stirring things up. And so I'm glad she was willing to do a podcast with me. But I've been following her for a while. We talk about similar topics and things like that, which is cool. That way we can touch on some of the topics that you guys keep tagging me on. But we have Jacky. I don't know how to say your last name. It's Baltazar. Okay, I was like, right before I called you, I was like, Baltazar. I was like, should I say it in Spanish? Should I say it in English? Like, is she going to get mad?
Baltazar. Yeah. I mean, more badass in Spanish, but yeah.
I actually prefer my name in Spanish. I don't like Edgar. It just sounds weird. But if you say Edgar,
it has more power to it.
Exactly. That's why and it sounds, I always tell people it sounds a little bit more exotic. I was like, it sounds a little bit more exotic. I like the Edgar. Don't call me Edgar. That sounds weird.
Yeah, anything in Spanish is always better.
I'm telling you. But again, thank you for doing this podcast with me. I'm excited to get into it. But I want people to get to know you a little bit just because I don't know your entire story. We talked about it offline that the first video I saw of yours was somebody tagged me in your video on how does a guy ask to get their booty ate, and I did a comment response on that, and it was funny because I'm straight up on my platform, just like you are, like no filter. We tell her how it is. I've never had that done to me. I've never asked a girl to do that for me. So I just made like a funny type of video about that. So that was the first time I saw you. And then after that, I started scrolling. I was like, oh, dang. Not only is she gorgeous, she's it's good content, like good quality content. And it's almost like similar stuff that we're talking about. So I was like, oh, let me follow her. And then eventually people who follow you started following me. And then there's these people on Instagram that keep messaging me. They're like, hey, message her. I'm like, chill. I'm sure she's busy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have your businesses going, but we'll get all into that. I want people to get to know you a little bit. Are you originally from California?
I am a SoCal native. I'm a Cali girl to the day I die. Not an LA girl, a Cali girl. LA is totally not my vibe. I'm more on the outskirts, but I'm a Cali girl to the day I die.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not an LA person. I was actually in LA a few weeks ago, which would have been cool. Like if I would have known you like before then, maybe to do it in person, because obviously audio in person is way different than audio over Zoom or FaceTime. But yeah, I'm not a Cali person. Or Cali's okay. I prefer. Have you ever been to Idaho? Have you ever seen Idaho?
I don't even care what's in Idaho.
I'm telling you, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous out here.
California here on TikTok. California forever, goodbye.
So you said you're from Cali like your entire life, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so what were you doing like before you started doing like social media and things like that?
Okay, I'll give you a quick rundown of who Jacky is. So I grew up outside of LA. I went to high school outside of LA in the Ontario area, Inland Empire area. A lot of people know kind of where that is. Right after high school, I went to the military. So I was active duty. I was in the Marine Corps from 2007 to 2011. I got out in 2011 and I went straight into school because the VA, being a veteran, you get so many educational benefits and just things that are in your favor to better improve yourself, and they're all paid for. So I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree. I became a mom. And while I was in college, I had a job. I got a job at an airsoft gun company. And I was having nightmares. I was having nightmares of my boss. I was literally waking up in the middle of the night and saying his name. And I imagine, obviously I was married at the time, so imagine my husband at the time being like, what the fuck? A dude's name, but I was so overstressed in work because they put me on salary. I was getting paid pretty well. Considering it was 2011, my salaried wage was like $20-something an hour. So that's quite a bit for 10 years ago, but he was very micromanaging. So it was like I had a spreadsheet, and he would time like, okay, it takes 7 seconds to do one cell. So there's 200 cells. So by the time you're done, it should take like this amount. So like no time to scratch my head. It's like super stressed. So I was like, I can't do this. And I had always wanted to start a business. And I hit up one of my family members, and she's like, just quit and just chase your dreams. Like, why not? You're getting paid to go to school. You have the security of this income. Why don't you just start your business then? And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I just quit, and then I started my business. I started with retail, and then progressively over time, I think like 6 or 7 years into the industry, I started wholesale. And I did that for 10 years, for a decade. I just closed this up in January.
Yeah,
but I did that for 10 years.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, which it was funny because when you did that, I was like, dang, we're actually similar, because I also had some retail stores too with an ex, and
Yeah.
it was great. And all, we would go to LA all the time to like Los Callejones to go get
Yeah.
clothes and stuff. And we also had like streetwear clothing too, because ours was like guys and girls. I was like,
Yeah.
it related a lot. I was like, how are we like talking about some of the similar stuff? She also had a boutique. I never served, but thank you for your service. I never served, but I was like, dang, like she's like almost, and you're 34, right?
Yeah.
I'm 34.
I'm 30.
That's why I was like, this is so weird. Like, this is so weird that. What was that?
89, baby?
88.
1989?
88.
Oh, 88. Oh, so you're going to be 35 this year.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I'm going to be in July.
I'm just kidding.
It's funny because I always tell my buddy his birthday is in February, and he's like, man, we're getting, like, when we hit our 30s, he's like, man, we're getting old. I was like, bro, I'm still 29, man. You're 30. I was like,
Yeah, I feel it.
So obviously, like, during that time, I mean, just boutiques, malls, everything like that was like huge, right? Like, people were going to the stores. Were you in a mall? Were you just like a standalone?
I did have multiple locations at one point. I had 5 locations.
Wow.
5 locations that I ran. And it was quite overwhelming. I always had I was always overly ambitious, and to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
I was always overly ambitious to a fault. But I think a lot of that was in protection of myself, because it was like the only thing that I felt I had control over, being that I had other issues going on, like at home, or like other personal things going on with myself, figuring out who I am, my identity, and all of these things, that it was like the only thing that I felt control over. So anything I could do to build that was like my main focus, It was like where I found joy, I guess you can say. And while doing that, I got familiar with social media, because obviously social media was the way to grow a business, especially in those beginning times, like before Instagram was what Instagram is today, and obviously TikTok came later, but YouTube and things like that. So I built social media for the business, and later on, progressively, I started to post for myself, but I don't think that I really did like social media this way until I was free from like my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Then I really was able to break out of my shell and really allow my personality to shine. And then that's how I got into this space and into being more of a content creator. Because I did have a platform. I did have my YouTube channel is almost at 100K, and it was more centered around business. So I would talk to people about the industry, the fashion industry. And that's what my initial platform was built off of. That channel was built off, and any following that I had was built off of that. So people interested in having boutiques, starting small businesses, things like that. Not just boutiques, but just a small business in general, like jewelry, etc. Things like that. And that's what gave me that initial platform because I talked about those things, and nobody was talking about them for a long time. So that's where a little bit of my following came from. But it wasn't so much me as a person, more so what I shared and what I was teaching,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I got here.
Yeah.
Or the beginning.
So, I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask you just based off of that. So, just because this is something that happened to me myself, I really don't get into too much detail. If you don't want to get into detail, it's fine. Did you ever run into like, was it the businesses that had a huge impact on your relationship?
I feel like this is a very complex question. I don't think that my businesses had an impact on my relationship. I think the fact that I had something that was so stable and that I built something of caused conflict in terms of insecurity.
Okay.
Not so much that it was like work, and because if I was at work, my significant other at the time or my ex-husband, whatever, he was at work too, for the most part.
Yeah, because
for a long period of time in our marriage, I didn't really have a relationship. Actually, for most of the years of our marriage, didn't really have a relationship with like his family or anything like that for a variety of reasons. And so when he was like off and he was doing things like that, it's like he would take the kids to go and do things with his family. So then when he was doing that, I was either at home like cleaning up or like doing business things or whatever, like, so I always had that space to do that. So I don't think that it necessarily caused problems. And I think if anything, it was my, like the one lifeline that I held on to. I think if I would have let that go a long time ago, like let's say I would have let my business go 5 years ago, I think my marriage would have ended much sooner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But because I was so distracted with my business and so distracted with building something for myself that I didn't really focus too much on the turmoil that was going on in the household, So I don't think that it did anything negative to the marriage. And if anything, it allowed us to do a lot more and have a lot more and do a lot more for the kids, or allowed me to do that. And I don't think, aside from the insecurity that it caused, and like those types of problems, because I mean, you have to think that at some point I was making quite a bit of money, and that when you're not secure, I think in your
it kills a guy's ego.
It's very testing first for your significant other, especially to be a woman, to exceed kind of where you are, and like if you have no drive, then it's hard for two people to grow together. And I think that that's another reason kind of why we grew apart, because we're so different.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted so many different things out of life but then even though the growing apart was happening, it was hard to focus on that because it was like kids, house, survival mode, work, it's kind of like you're on a hamster wheel, especially when you have kids. It's like you don't even have time to think about like, oh shit, we need to have this argument, or oh shit, we need to have this discussion. Like there's no fucking time. Like I just want to go to sleep, or like, oh shit, the baby needs this, or the baby's sick,
Yeah. And the reason I ask because is some guys, because you guys weren't business partners, right? Okay. And so like you being time away, because I understand how much time it takes, because you said you had 5 stores, which is way more than I had, but ordering stuff like this little thing, this store needs this store needs that, like it's always when you're an entrepreneur, it's never like a 9 to 5 and then you can shut it off. It's always like somebody's always calling you, someone's always messaging you, and then sometimes you have to pull really long hours. And so the reason I asked that is because the other when you finished recording your podcast, or was it when you finished? But you mentioned that before you would go to lunch with your mom, and your husband wouldn't like that because he felt like if you were gone for too long, you were cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so again, those are all like deep-rooted insecurities just in general, from like just, I think, so much deeper than just surface level things. Like those are things that on the inside, because I never had that mentality, like I never thought like if you went with your coworkers to lunch or anything like that you're cheating. Like that's not my automatic thought ever about anything, like even when I was like, somebody sent me an email that there was like this stuff going on behind my back, even then I was like, what is this about? And then he clarified, and I was like, okay, like I'm not, my mind doesn't go to that place because that's not how I'm built, because it's not what I do. It's like my mind doesn't go to those places because my character isn't that way. So then to me, it's like, oh, okay then. Well, there's just somebody fucking with me, like whatever. But I think it was just like bothersome to him. Like, how is it possible that you could spend 2 hours with your mom? Like, what the fuck do you guys talk about for 2 hours, Or also, too, a big problem was that, I thoroughly and genuinely enjoy time by myself. And I think that also was triggering because, again, if it's something that you don't understand, then it's triggering for you because you're like, how could you be alone? I can't be alone. You know what I mean? Like, so it's triggering for you. Or if he was not a very talkative person, so obviously you're not going to sit at lunch with your mom for 2 hours because you don't talk. You don't have a lot to say. So a lot of my outings were very limited, and I didn't really do that. I just couldn't focus on work.
Yeah,
That's it.
which is crazy because I remember I was in the same situation. Like, I'm a very confident person. I'm very secure with myself. I know, like, if somebody's with me, they're with me. I never am like, oh, they're out cheating, they're out doing something. Like, my ex, when she would go out with her friends, she would be like, oh, how do I look? I'm like, oh, dang, girl, you look sexy, And she would go out, like, and my friends would be like, you let your girl go out like that? I'm like, yeah, like, so what? Like, she's out with her friends, and
Yeah.
so it was like similar. Like, I was built almost the same way. I've never, because imagine like there's some of these guys who make their girls turn off social media. Turn off social media because they start complaining about why does this guy like your stuff? Why does this guy comment your guy? Some guy you don't even know. And
No. Yes.
and so that just leads like to a whole another thing. That was a whole different relationship. This girl was like super jealous, and I was cheating on every girl that liked my photo. So
damned if you don't. It was damned if you don't. Like, it's your fault that they did, and then it's your fault. Like, why didn't you block them? But then if you block them, then it's like, why did you block them? What are you hiding? And you're just like, damn.
So
right.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I ended that relationship, because I was like, no matter what I say, whatever explanation I give, no matter what I say, it's wrong. There's always a follow up to like my answer. There's like, just like you said, why'd you block him then? Did you have a reason to block him? Like, oh, now just because I found out about her, like, you blocked her? I'm like, girl, chill. Like, I have way too much shit to do.
Yeah.
So leading up to, because this is a question I get a lot, especially on my anonymous thing. So I wanted to ask you, what was the process you took in order to initiate the divorce? Because some people get stuck in that whole cycle. Like, they don't know what to do. They don't know what their family's going to think. They don't know what, like, they're more worried about the outside than what they're feeling inside. So, and also a lot of people stay together because of the kids, which ends up being worse, because I've seen a lot more people say like, hey, my kids actually told me I should have just left, because being in fights all the time, being in that toxic environment all the time was just, it wasn't healthy for the kid, So what process did you take? Like, did you decide way beforehand? Did you guys talk about it? Did you just surprise them and be like, yo, I'm out?
Okay. So the betrayal that happened in 2019. At that point, I think that when I discovered what I had discovered, I think it was a shock to me. It was a shock, and it was kind of like I was trying to process what had just happened. On top of the fact that I'm trying to figure out who I am, because I'm hitting my 30s at that point, I'm about to I hit 30 that year, and like, I'm just going through all these life changes in my mind, right? I have 3 kids at this point, and I just have like a lot going on. So I think that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I felt blindsided, right? I never felt like that would ever happen to me, or that he could ever do that to me. Like, if there were to ever be the end of anything, it would be because we both decided that this isn't working, but not that would happen. So when it did, I think that I hit one of the lowest points in my entire life, because the very little self-esteem that I had was completely destroyed. The very little love that I had for myself was completely destroyed. And also, too, the identity crisis of what the marriage was. Like, it completely destroyed even the least bit of purity that it had, because it's like you could never say that it wasn't tainted. So I think all of these emotional instances really took a toll on me, and it's almost to the point where, like, I was in desperation mode. So I definitely begged. I definitely was on my knees begging for him to stay. Like, embarrassing. Like, no dignity, no self-respect, no self-love, no self-worth. You name it, all of it out the window. And begging for obviously somebody that, I mean, he didn't deserve me in all reality, you know?
Yeah.
But when you're in that headspace, it's like you can't see anything. And then also, too, the desire to want to win. So you don't want to let the other person win. So ego was another big thing, you know, ego. And that's a whole other thing. Ego is such a detrimental thing to us. It's good in only a sense of success and things like that, but our ego can really destroy us and destroy what God really has for us, because we want to move with our ego. Like, we want what we want. We want to win. And it's like, I'm trying to show you that there's something better, but you want so desperately to win, you know? So, after some time, I was like, okay, I started to feel all the emotions. So, you know, you hit rock bottom, and then you're sad, and all of a sudden you start to get mad. And then anger comes, and then I was so angry that anything felt triggering, even my poor kids, you know, like even the sound of their voice, if I was just feeling on edge, I couldn't even tolerate that. And I was starting to feel very angry, and because it happened repeatedly with the same person, like I caught it a few times after the fact. And then after the fact, I was the only one that felt like I was trying to salvage it for my kids. And I will say this, and I don't care who attacks me for it. Your kids and the excuse of your kids is a cop-out. It's a cop-out. I don't care what anybody says. It's a cop-out. You use this excuse of your kids for not leaving because you don't have the courage to leave. So you say it's your kids, but it's really not your kids. You're doing your kids a disservice by saying, and you know it, because you know that you're not being the best parent that you can be, because you're not happy and you don't feel good. And if you don't feel good, you can't be the best version of yourself at all. And you know this, but you use the kids as an excuse because it is the only thing that people will allow you to justify staying, you know, or people, like society, will make you feel like, well, you did the right thing for your kids, you know, and that makes you feel good, but it's a cop-out. Because you just don't have the courage to leave. So I did that too. Been there, done that too. And then when I realized that I was very angry, I was like, I need help. Like, I am not processing this well anymore, and I decided to get into therapy. And I started to go to therapy not only on my own, but church as well, and listening to sermons constantly. And once I did that, I started to understand that our marriage never had boundaries, because we got together so young that we never had boundaries. We never established things, because what could we know? We knew each other since we were 14. What could we know? Like, we didn't know shit about shit, you know? So I started to understand what boundaries were and all these things. And I kind of set up, prior to me setting boundaries, then I feel like this is very specific to me, but very life-altering. My father passed. So when my dad passed, I went through like this moment or month of just being in a state of like shock and in depression and like just getting drunk every day. And I'm so thankful to him, because at least in that time, he was there for me in a way that nobody else could have been. Like I would be at home crying, and he would come home and cry with me. So I will give him that he was really there in a time where like, he could have failed me again, but he didn't. So he was definitely there for that. And I think after that, and after I picked up the pieces, I said, okay, you know what? Like, if we're going to fix this, like, let's establish some boundaries. The first boundary and the only boundary I ask for is, in an argument, whenever we have an argument, let's not yell at each other. And please don't, like, flare your chest and, like, try to intimidate me. Let's just start there. That'll be our square one, so that we can at least learn to communicate effectively whenever we have a disagreement or express our feelings, you know? And so that was like the very first boundary established, whatever. Well, 3 weeks later, there was an argument. And the very first thing that happened was the flaring of the chest and the raising of the voice. And it was an argument over, like, I think maybe house things, or like, it was just something so small. It's so small. And he threw a brush, and it not to hit me, but just to like prove a point, I think.
Yeah.
And made a dent in the bathroom wall. And I sat on the edge of the bed and I thought to myself, like, I just saw my whole life flash before my eyes. And I was like, it was like God was telling me, I'm showing you your entire life if you stay here. This is what it's going to be like, your entire life. If this is what you want, this is how it's going to be. And so that is the very first time that I honored my boundary. And I learned to honor my boundary. That was my very first instance of that. And I kind of was quiet and I said, you have to go. This is it. And it took him a bit to leave. It took him like maybe 2-3 months to leave. But there was no intimacy after that. There was a lot of accusations of like, oh, I know that you're with somebody, blah, 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 and all these things. And I never was. I don't care what he said, saw, his assumptions. I never was. I just decided that was it. And that was kind of my life-changing moment. But I think more than anything, it was my father's death. Mm-hmm. That changed my life, because it really made me understand that life is so short and it's so precious, and every day is such a gift for you not to feel the joy in every day, because you're in this situation that you know is beneath you, and it's not serving you, and it's not getting you to the next place, and you're not growing, and you're not shining, and you're unable to fully be yourself. So I think the major pivotal point in my life, or my entire life changing, was my father's death. And then obviously establishing boundaries and getting to know myself. But that was it for me.
Yeah. And I mean, wow. There's like a lot to unpack there, because you touched on a lot of things that, especially the ladies that message me over on TikTok, kind of like, do you believe at love at first sight? Which I also say, like you touched on it earlier, you guys were together since you were 14. And sometimes I'm like, how do you know? Like, you're 14. Like, for you, you're 14. How do you know that's the person that you're going to be with the rest of your life? And I was like, honestly, like, me just being honest, I've seen more people break up that are high school sweethearts than people that got on in relationships later on. And so, like, I'm glad you touched on that. And I'm glad you touched on the whole staying for the kids. I don't have any kids myself. I have like beautiful nephews and nieces. I love them to death. But a lot of girls or women, they tend to stay mainly because of the kids. They think they're doing the kids a service, when in reality they're not. Like, they're hurting the kids more than than helping. So I'm glad you touched on that, because it's weird when it comes through like a third person. Like, their friends can tell them whatever they want. Their family can tell them whatever they want. But like, some stranger will say something, and all of a sudden you're like, maybe that person is right. That person is right.
Your kids have and this is for everybody watching, your kids have a higher chance of an opportunity to thrive if you move on from that phase and you give them the example of true, genuine love. Whether it's my kid's dad is in a relationship, and I hope I'm not, but I hope, and they live together, and I hope that in their home they show each other genuine love, so that my kids can witness that, because that's what shapes them. It's how you love, how you show love, and like, that example is bigger than like you loving your child. Mm-hmm. Them having that example. I actually just had this discussion with the podcast I filmed yesterday, because it was more so, she was saying that when she was a little girl, her views of men were shaped from her father. And I said, what affected you more? What do you think was more impactful, the way that your dad treated you as his daughter, or the way that you saw your dad treat your mom and the things that he did to her? She said, oh, absolutely, 1,000%, what my dad did to my mom and how he loved her. That was more impactful than the way he treated me, because I'm his daughter, no matter what. But it's like my views about relationships and men, and like the love foundation came from watching what my dad did to my mom. And that's why she has a very like antagonistic approach to men because of the things that she witnessed from her dad. So I think that the biggest thing that any relationship can have with kids is the way that a man loves a woman and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most beneficial thing for kids. So I think it's best for you to break apart and give your kids an actual opportunity to see genuine love. And maybe it didn't work with the person that is their mom or dad, like maybe it didn't work, but in separate households, maybe they can witness what it is to have a thriving, loving relationship without chaos and turmoil and all of these things. You know, that's better for kids to thrive than it is to be just surviving. Like oh my gosh, I would rather die today than have my kids have a marriage or a situation that they just tolerate and are surviving through instead of living and enjoying.
Yeah.
Like I don't want that to be my fault. You know, so I'd rather them learn how to choose themselves and know what healthy is than stay through something that I know is not going to set an example for them. And then later on in life, witness them have horrible relationships because I didn't set a better example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
And I'm glad you touched on that because, like especially with my dad, my mom and dad, they're great together, right? But they also, like, the way I grew up is like not showing any emotion, not being able to communicate. Like I had trouble communicating with anybody I was with because we don't talk about our feelings. We don't show weakness. Like we're the man. Like we're supposed to be strong. You're not supposed to be like show. Yeah, like we're not supposed to show any sign of weakness. And I learned later on that that's not fully right. Just because at the end of the day, like whoever you're with, they're trying to communicate with you like how you're feeling, like because not everything, like I mean, you know, like we're not happy every day, you know, like we go through our ups and downs all the time, like things happen. I don't care who says, like there's nobody who's 100% happy, you know, like we all have our issues. So you going through a divorce now, what's the process you took? Because a lot of people are curious about this area right here, like how do you heal from it? I always tell people it doesn't happen overnight. Like I remember when I broke up with my ex, like we were together for almost 8 years, but then we separated. Yeah, and we never got married, but it still felt like we were together, like married basically. Yeah, and so after that, it was just it sucked. Like I knew it was the right thing. I always tell people I knew it was the right thing, but sometimes the right thing like hurts the most. You know, hurts the most. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm so glad I left that relationship because I was not happy. She was not happy. What's the process that you took in order to heal? Like, did you pick up new hobbies? Did you like go to church? Like, what were you doing?
I think that I did a lot of my healing while still in the relationship. I did like the therapy while I was still in the relationship. I did church while I was still in the relationship. I did, just while I was in the relationship, I knew that it was going to come to an end. And it was just a matter of time for me to get the courage or have that like final trigger to end it, to have the courage to end it, you know? So I think that I did a lot of my healing while in the relationship, and I would say it was therapy and a lot of church, a lot of sermons, a lot of worship music, a lot of begging God to remove from my life what doesn't serve me, help me do it because I didn't have the courage to do it. But again, I feel like my specific situation is so different and isolated because again, my father's death just changed my life.
Yeah. Like
it really, really did a number for me. I feel like his death saved me. We lost him, but he saved me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He gave me my life back. And I feel like after that, after finally saying like you gotta go and all these things, I really didn't struggle. The very first day that he left, it was like everything was lifted from me. Like that anxiety, that fire that I had in my chest, he took it with him. When I went to sleep that night, the first night that he was gone, I slept like hella hours straight.
Yeah.
The most restful sleep I had had in a really long time. And I didn't go to bed with this angst or fire in my chest. And I didn't wake up that way. It was like the deepest breath I ever took. And so I think I was more than ready when the time came. I was more than ready. And I didn't really struggle. I know a lot of people struggle because, maybe the other person decided, or the other person left and they're like blindsided or whatever, like I know a lot of people struggle for a variety of different reasons or because ego. So again, my father's death and in learning things from death, I realized how important it is to kill our ego and move from a place of like love. And it took me some time. Even now, I still struggle. Like I get, because it's always a growing and changing. It's growing pains. It's going to be constant. And even now, like I do read the Bible and stuff, and I do like try to talk to God, and like I receive specific instruction to like pray for my kid's dad. And even then, my ego won't let me. My own self is like, no, he's not my problem. Like, let his girls pray for him. Let his, But then God reminds me, like, but he's your kid's dad.
Yeah.
Like, he's your kid. That's what you care about. Like, you should care about your kids. Like, he's your kid's dad. So do it for them, not for him, for them. And it's like, but my ego, like, it's a constant thing of learning to move with love instead of ego.
Yeah, and it's fun. I like how you bring up ego because actually, that's one big thing that I talked about the other day. Because, so like I told you, I was with my ex we were almost together it was about to be 8 years. It was like 7.5 years, and what kept me there the longest was the fact, like I would think about some other guy touching her, like being intimate with her, and I was like, yeah, nope. I was like, yep, nope, not happening. Instant, like. Like this weird feeling inside it. Yeah. And I would hate it, and I'm like, nope, we're gonna make this work, we're gonna figure it out, but then it would go right back to the same thing. And when I learned that, like you said, you got to kill your ego, and then once you kill your ego, like you're able to let go. Because I remember when she told me she was leaving, usually I did the whole thing like, no, don't go, we'll work it out, like let's do this, like we'll do this, and then all of a sudden it's good for like a week or two. But that time I was just like, I thought about it, and I was like, okay. I was like, just let me know when you're coming to get your stuff. And she was like blown away by it because she was expecting for me to be like, no, let's work it out. Let's work it out. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, just let me know when you want to come get your stuff. It sucked. Trust me. I was like, I can't believe I just said that. Like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, what did I just do? Like, she's going to hate me. But then I just let it play out how it played out. And obviously, like, some shady stuff happened afterwards, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, pretty. Yeah, but it's ego. It's our ego that drives us to want to have it our way, or like our refusal to like let somebody go, because it's like, even though we know that it's not serving us, even though we know that they can't give us the life that we want, we refuse to see the possibility of them doing that for somebody else. We don't want to see it. But if you could just release yourself from that ego and separate yourself from that and never look at what they're doing with their life, just worry about yours, ultimate peace, because you know that it wasn't serving you and there's something better coming for you. But it's the ego, and ego is what keeps us in a mess for a long time.
What actually helped me at the time, I didn't know it was helping me at the time. So one thing for her to get, like, almost make me seem like, oh, this is what your life is going to be without me. We were living together. She took everything. She took, like, it literally looked like nobody lived in that house anymore. Like, she took everything. She left me with a bed, a TV stand, and a TV, and my clothes. And then I was just like, whatever, like, if she wants to take everything, that's cool. But later on, it helped me get over that relationship a lot quicker because there was no attachment to anything. There was no attachment to, so now, like, I've had some girlfriends after that, but now whatever they give me, like, I get rid of. I want no attachments. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, if it was a pair of shoes, even if it was expensive, I'm like, I'm good. This is how I'm going to get past this person. This is how I'm going to get over this person. And that's why I always tell people, I'm like, it's not easy to get over somebody overnight. And especially if you have kids, because now you have to co-parent. Now you have to, worry about those things. But it takes time. And the worst thing that you can do is nothing and just expect for it to somehow go away, like that pain to go away. And because I went through my whole depressed mode, like I was just like in the house not doing anything, and then at one point I realized, I was like, dude, you need to you need to do something. Like this is not it. You're not happy. You go to work, you come home, you lock yourself in the room, and then that's it. Like all day. And then
Yeah.
eventually I started healing. I was like, all right, I got to make sure every day, at least 6 days a week, to the gym. And I started
Yep.
doing that, and then all of a sudden, like, you start feeling better. You still feel like yourself again. It didn't.
Yep.
Again, I'm not saying overnight. This is not an overnight thing. This takes time. Even those days that you were just like, you want to call that person, you want to like talk to him just because you're so comfortable in that situation. I was just like, nah, like let me go to sleep. I'm gonna regret calling that person and so on. And then of course, drugs do not help. Like any sort of drug, like alcohol, getting high, that does it just makes it worse. Like it makes it worse. It makes you want to call them, and then you're gonna say something stupid, and then you're gonna do something stupid.
Regret it the next day. You're like, damn it.
Because
For what?
Because I'm not gonna lie, I fell for it for a few times. Like that's why I'm like trying to tell people, yes, it's like tempting because it's there, like, and it's something you're used to, you're comfortable, it's familiar. I was like, but it doesn't do anything because the next day you're like, fuck, what did I do? Like this is, we're in an awkward situation now.
Yeah. To set yourself even more failure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing you could do is to like distract your mind. I think another big thing that is so underrated is to journal. So like, if you're having so many thoughts before you go to bed or like whatever, just write it on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be formal. Just like write it out. Like just let it out of your chest. Sometimes it's the best thing you can do because talking all the time, like people don't need your emotional baggage. People don't need your emotional dump. Even then, when you pay a therapist for an hour, it costs you an arm and a leg, and they're only going to listen for an hour in your shit for an hour. So just journal and go to the gym and do self-care things, a lot of self-love things, a lot of positive self-talk is the only way because once you start like drinking and things like that is when it's like those demons of like alcohol and things like that push you to do something that, again, doesn't serve you because they want you to be stuck in that.
Yeah.
They want you to be like this place with something that doesn't serve you because obviously the devil's main goal is so that you don't shine.
Mm-hmm.
So that you fulfill your purpose is to keep you in these dark, dark places. And you only do it to yourself by doing things that are self-destructive. So it's best to focus on, again, the gym, feel good things.
Yeah, something different, something to keep your mind distracted. That's what I always tell people because the more you sit there and like alone, that doesn't help. Like the more you're gonna think about that person, the situation, and it's gonna lead for you to call them, text them, go over, have them come over. Like that's all it leads it to. Like instead of like keeping your mind distracted with something positive, like you said. Big things that helped me were like audiobooks at the time, and also going to the gym. I don't do books because I get distracted. I read like 4 or 5 pages. I'm like, what the fuck did I just read? And and so I got to go back. That's why props to you for going back to school because I saw that you started doing that not too long ago. You started going back to school, which is amazing. I went back to school too, but I'm actually 3 classes away. Everyone tells me just go back and get your bachelor's, but maybe later on.
Yeah, just trust me. I have homework and it's like on the back of my mind right now. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it.
So when did you decide to start focusing on social media? Because your social medias have grown. Like you have over, I think like it's 230 something on TikTok.
Yeah.
235.8, and then you have like 71 over on Instagram. And what I've noticed on there, I don't know if you did something before. What I noticed on there that you do like a lot of fashion, like lifestyle, self-help. Let's see, like the Amazon hauls, which are funny. Like yours are funny. Like I love your personality because that's what sells it. And at the end of the day, I feel like you're being you, not just like, hey, like come check out this. It looks amazing. It's great. Click this link and go buy it. Like that's like straight cookie cutter. Like yeah, obviously trying to sell something.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I would say that my social media really has taken off, I think, the more that I have found my purpose, the more that I have found my voice, and the more firm I stand in who I am. It has really elevated, even down to like TikTok. I think Tuesday, or maybe I don't remember what day it was. It might have been at some point last week. I don't know, but less than a week ago, I was at like 228, and in a week we're up 7,000 more followers, and it's all personality based. And I feel like this is such a big thing for me to highlight, that the more you move into loving yourself and into your own self love and investing in yourself, the more you radiate, the more you grow, and the more you attract the things that are supposed to be for you. So obviously not everybody's going to have the same calling or purpose that I do, or have like a following on social media and things like that. But just in general, the more you will attract everything that is meant for you. The more that you find you and that self-love in you and the love that God has for you, the more you are going to get to the place where you're supposed to be. And the more you grow, the more you attract that. So I feel like it took me some time post like the separation and all these things. It took a little bit of time, but it started to grow gradually. I started to share my story, be more open. I started to find my confidence in myself and like being more of myself, because I started to, be more. I was finally able to like be me. But I think that I fully started to thrive in like my full energy and who I actually am, and not caring what anybody said. Probably like mid last year.
Okay.
Like in the years when I really was like, yep, I'm just going to say and do whatever I want to say, and nobody's going to tell me nothing, and I'm just going to say and be me. And again, that came also from my father's death, but progressively over time, I gained more like confidence in just being myself, and now I'm just me. Like now I'm just me, and I feel like that really helps. And then also too, I really try to like be as engaging as possible. Like I really try to have a relationship with my followers. Like I try to respond to everybody. Maybe I don't do it off the bat, but within a couple days, I'm like responding to everybody, or like at least acknowledging and really trying to build that connection, because I want more than just a platform. I want something to serve, like if it makes a difference, thank you. And I get so many messages, especially as of lately. I've gotten so many messages like your personality just makes me happy. Like it gives me joy to see you. Or some people that are like, I was struggling with this, and like it's so scary to like feel so alone, and I'm so glad that you like with a voice for people who can't have a voice. And I was once in those shoes too. When I was going through what I was going through, I was desperately searching for somebody to show me that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and I did find somebody here on social media. I'm sure you've seen her following. Her name's Alma Ramirez.
I think she sounds familiar.
She's on TikTok, but she has like 700,000 followers, I think, maybe even more. And she was one of the people that gave me hope. And I feel like we look for that. We desire to, whenever we're going through something, it's like we just want to see somebody that went through something similar and made it, or like came out on the other side, or like that is vulnerable enough to share their struggles and see them through it, so that they have hope. And I feel like that's a lot of what I'm here to do, it's like be me, but at the same time share my real testimony, like, and it just gives people hope,
I feel like a lot of people are too scared to share, because I was doing the question thing just on my Instagram. I don't know if you've ever done the anonymous thing, like, oh yeah, I've seen you've done it. So it doesn't let you do a video response, right? And so there was this girl, she was like, well, I'd rather see you answer it in a video. And I was like, nah, that's too much work, because then I have to set up cameras and this and that. And she's like, oh, well, I thought you had a media company. And I was like, oh, all right, whatever. I'll do it. I'll do it one time. And I did it one time. This was like late October last year. And then the video started doing well. And I was like, oh shit. Like, cause I have no filter, just like you. Like you can ask me whatever and I'll talk about it. And I think what helps me, I always tell people like what helps me with these videos and why they do well is because I was in that position. I never paint myself as no saint. Like I put girls in situationships. I've ghosted girls plenty of times. I've hooked up with them just to hook up with them. Like I had my rosters like that. I was that guy, and I'm not proud of it, but I was that guy, and now I feel like I can try to help other people avoid these situations just because I've been there, and then and help other guys like, let's not do this, because I remember I was trying really hard with this one girl, but I felt more joy in just like focusing on one person than trying to give your attention to all these other girls. And you're like, a little attention here, a little attention here, a little attention here. But instead, just like everything all on one person. Like I had way more. I was like, dang, this is actually pretty dope. Like this is actually pretty cool. But that was the one that was like super jealous, so it didn't end up working. And so, did you originally, when you started posting, so did you start posting about your life, or did you start posting about just like relationship advice or fashion stuff? What was your initial start?
At the beginning, obviously, I told you I had a business in the fashion industry. So at the beginning, it was more business related. And then over time, I started to like disclose a little bit more about who I am. I never actually I think if I were to actually sit down and share the story of how everything went down, like 1 part, 2 part, 3, I probably have 1 million followers right now. Like to do that, but I don't have the energy to do that, and nor do I want to give like a full story time of X, Y, and Z and what went down and etc. But I have shared like bits and pieces, like a story here, or this is a part of my story, this is a part of my testimony, or parts of just my life in general. I've also shared some of my failures, like what some of my failures in my marriage were, or what I learned, and give advice based on that. So, like, I just did a post recently where I was talking to girls that are, like, 14 to 24, like, hey, just leave the guy because it doesn't end well. It's very rare. It's very a small amount of cases where a relationship can stand the test of time when it's your high school sweetheart because you don't know who you are and you're trying to figure yourself out. And that video got, like, 100,000 views. So I just talk about things that come to mind at the moment. Or like things that I've gone through that I'm like, I should say that, or something prompted through social media. Like I saw a post and I'm like, it made me think of something in my own life, and then I'll talk about it quickly. And some of them are just bullshit things like, my follower secrets and, just, I post if I feel like posting. I don't have like this niche thing. I just want to be myself. Yeah. I don't want to be forced to be a certain thing on social media. If I want to post about Target today, cool. And tomorrow, if I want to show myself crying because I'm having an emotional breakdown because I miss my dad, then you're going to see that. If the next day I want to shop on Amazon and I bought 30 packages, you're going to see that, So, come here. My dog's calling me. My dog's crying.
I figured.
Yeah, she's a baby. She loves me. But, so I feel like I just show up in that way, like in a very, like, this is what you're going to get. And either some people resonate with that content and some people resonate with different content. But it'll show up on their algorithm in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, when you watch certain things, like, then that's the type of content that'll show up. So I know that it'll pop up on the algorithm for whatever that person likes to follow me for. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel like that's how my social media kind of grew.
Yeah.
And it's continued to be really thriving. I'm so thankful. Like, I'm so thankful every day for, like, the platform and for it growing and thriving. And I feel like it gives me so much purpose, especially when I receive such positive feedback, because at the end of the day, I'm still a person. I'm still a human. I still need like to have that motivation to keep going, or like to keep pressing forward and doing what I'm doing, like it serves in a way, but it also provides. It provides for me. It provides for my kids. It gives us a life that I never dreamed of, and I feel so fortunate for that too,
Yeah, and I like how you bring that up because everyone thinks that you're gonna post one video, and then all of a sudden you're gonna become viral, and then all of a sudden you're gonna become like an influencer, and like they look at your profile and they'll be like, oh, like well she just started posting like this and that, and then all of a sudden like when they get discouraged, because I've seen it multiple times, especially like fitness influencers. Like there's so many of them, and they always like start one. And I'm like, I had a client who came up to me. He said, "Hey, I want to create content for to be a fitness influencer." I was like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" I was like, because I'm not here just to take your money. Like, of course, I want to get paid for whatever we do. I was like, but there's a lot of fitness influencers. I was like, find something that you like to do. Be you, like. Just because you see some of these like bigger guys, like they it took time for them to get there. Like for you, it didn't happen like you posted one video and all of a sudden like, hey, look, this is where I'm at.
No. Hell no, dude. My YouTube channel is barely close to hitting 100K. I've had that for like 6 years. My second YouTube channel I've had for 2 years, and it's like at 8,000 subscribers. TikTok I've had since COVID. and I'm at 200 and something. There's people who have surpassed me by an insane amount. You know, Keith Lee, the guy that does the reviews about food, he got like 10 million followers in 5 months. So it's case by case basis. But I do think that you do, depending on what your end goal is, you do have to be strategic. So my goal is obviously to feed my kids and have a life for my kids and for myself that is of freedom, right? So in that comes, affiliate marketing, brand deals, and things like that because I show my personality, right? And then secondly, another avenue is showing a very real side of me, because without showing a very real side of me, people have nothing to resonate to. Hey, stop it. People have nothing to resonate to. So why would they want to buy something that I'm promoting? And they might because it looks good, but it sells more if you already know me and my personality, and you're like, I fuck with her, so I know that she ain't lying, or I know that if she says it's cool, it's cool. You know what I mean? So it resonates. So you have to have an end goal, like with what you're doing, if this is what you're trying to do. Like there has to be a concept, an idea. And then again, the reason that I talk about real life things and scenarios is because also I'm trying to grow my other platforms and trying to have a podcast to where I can also put advertisements on the podcast eventually and have another stream of income. But also I'm also fulfilling my actual purpose in like who I am and in my testimony, and in like giving people hope and all these things. So it has to have a purpose for it to be valuable and meaningful. I don't know how recently this is, but there was like a girl with like 3 million followers or something, and she tried to start a brand, right? And nobody bought it.
Yeah.
Why? Because her content, not only was it, you had the following, you had the engagement, but your content wasn't people-based. It wasn't your personality, right? So nobody wanted it. Yeah. And then secondly, or like what your sex and image sold. So unless you're going to sell your body, like it really is not going to translate into anything for you.
Yeah, I like how you brought that up, because there's this one girl that I know that she has a huge following, and she also tried to push a bunch of stuff, but it didn't really work out. Like the brands didn't want to work with her, because you can tell the reason she was big was because obviously she's posting like half naked photos of herself. So of course you're gonna get a bunch of guys that follow you, But then there's
is what? What can you sell with that?
Exactly. But I know somebody who has like a small little profile, and every time she posts something, her followers engage like crazy. Like they'll buy it up, they'll do everything. And I'm like, I'd rather do something like that. That's why I like doing what I'm doing right now. And kind of like you, like I'm leveraging TikTok like for the podcast, which has helped drastically, because before I would do the podcast before, but it was more entrepreneur based, right? And it was doing great. I had Dollar Shave Club as a sponsor and whatnot, but then everybody started doing it. Like this podcast popped up doing the similar thing. This podcast, but I was like, dang, everyone's doing it. And there's only so much you can do. But then after I started doing the TikTok videos, they were like, oh, can you talk about it, like this topic a little bit more? I'm like, yeah, but I don't think you want to sit through like a 10-minute TikTok like of me talking about one topic. So I was like, let me just like pivot the podcast. And ever since I did it, and I was like, oh shit, like this is like game changer. And now I have people messaging me saying like, hey, like how much to wear a shirt in your videos, and so I'm like, oh shit, like you want me to wear a shirt and like get paid for it? I'm like, what's up, like.
Say less.
And so like recently I had this I like to wear accessories, right? And I had this company that like does bracelets, and they're like, hey, there was the first time I got one of the creator fund like brand deals.
Yeah.
And so like they sent me, I was like, oh shit, like I can make this much money just to talk about your bracelet. Like I was like, dude, that's why I'm like laser focused on this. But this I do after hours. That's what I try to tell people is like they don't see. I do my client stuff early during the day. I go and film. I sit here and edit in my studio. I have people come here. But then after that, guess what? Now it follows my stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course, like I can go and like just go home and watch Netflix, not do anything, like and just hang out, But at the end of the day, like once you see something working, and then I feel like it's been working for myself, kind of like you, because I've been in that position. And at first I thought people were going to think of me as a piece of shit. You know, like he's that guy. He's that guy that's ghosting girls. He's that guy. He's like, oh yeah, like that's the guy that did that to me. You know, like and yeah, it sucks because I did it, but I was like, I'm just trying to help people now. Like I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to be different. I'm trying to communicate a lot more because that was a big thing before. I didn't really communicate with whoever I was with. They would ask me what's wrong. I'd be like, no, I'm fine. But no, nothing was fine about me. You know, like I had a whole bunch of issues going on, but I'd just be like, no, I'm good. And that's something I also tell some of these ladies to just to be aware of. Like when we're growing up, a little boy falls off the bike and you tell him, hey, man up, boys don't cry. Like, don't show emotion. A little girl falls off and you're like, hey, it's okay, babe. Like, you're fine. You can cry. Like, and that has like a long term effect because, especially in the Hispanic community, when you're a guy in the Hispanic, like, you can't cry. Like, if you cry, you're like, stop crying. Like, you're a guy. Like, you're a man up. Or if you show any type of emotion to your friends or anything like that, instantly you're just like, dude, like what the fuck is wrong with that dude? You know, like but they're going through like similar situations, you know what I mean? Like I remember one time I did something happened. I went to go talk to someone who I thought I could rely on, and they're kind of like, man up, dude. And I'm like, bro, it's not even like that, you know, like it's a lot more issues going on. But uh
So do you think struggles with like putting yourself out there because of possibly feeling like imposter syndrome? Like,
oh, I feel that
because
all the time.
Right? I feel like that's a very big thing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, especially like in like having my own company, which was I was scared enough to do it on my own, like because I did have the retail stores, broke up, didn't work, and then I started working in 9 to 5, and then that's when I was like, all right, I need to figure out something else. That's when I started doing like media, and I started doing my own media company, and that blew up. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, like you have like these major production companies, like, and sometimes they message me instead of them. I'm like, damn, like, am I even like qualified to do that? You know, like I go through that all the time. Or even like TikTok, I'm like, bro, like some of these dudes have like millions and millions of followers, and I'm over here sitting like at 44,000, and I'm like, damn, like, am I supposed to be doing this? You know, like I always question myself, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, nah, whatever you put your mind to, like you've been able to like kill it and crush it. But like the whole communicating thing, I feel like that's something if I were to have kids or even my nephews, I would want them to communicate more. Because recently my nephew has been getting in a lot of trouble in school. He's in middle school. And I'm like, hey man, I was like, if you have any like issues at school, I was like, just message me. You have my number. Call me. Whatever issues you have, like you can call me. I know sometimes your mom's gonna yell at you, your dad's gonna yell at you, but call me and I'll talk to you. You know. And he's like, oh okay, but he's messing up a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Because like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I feel it.
so one thing that I wanted to touch on, just because a lot of people were tagging me and like asking me like what I thought on it recently. I mean, a little bit recently, you've been talking about 50-50 relationships, right? You've been talking about so for those listening, 50-50 relationship is usually like whoever you're with, you can be married or just boyfriend and girlfriend, but you guys like split the bills, like one person pays this, one person pays that, or I don't know what you call it. Somebody when they commented, they're like, what do you think of the princess, what was it called, what did they say, princess something, I can't remember, but that was when the guy takes care of the woman, right? And they asked me what my thoughts were, and I'll just let you know where I sit on that. So I told them I totally agree with a 50-50, or if you want to do a provider. I was like, but to find someone who's gonna provide for you and live comfortably, you're gonna be single maybe a little bit longer. I was like, so I just want you to know that. I was like, those guys aren't everywhere. And if they are, they're probably already in a relationship, or they're probably cheating on whoever they're with multiple other girls. I was like, so you run into that issue. So another issue that I've seen was like when a guy who lives paycheck to paycheck is trying to do that for his girl, he's stressed out, he's struggling, like he's fed up, like the relationship's not working because he's working double shifts, triple shifts just to provide for the girl and for the guy. I was like, so it just depends on like, do you want to grow with somebody? Like you can do that. You can grow with somebody, get with somebody, and then you guys can build something. Or to find somebody who's already like living comfortably and then bring you on, I was like, you might have to wait a little bit longer for that because those guys just aren't everywhere.
Right.
And so,
so you really want to get into this. Okay. This is a very, very complex topic.
it is.
But the very short answer is that you have every right to want whatever life you want for yourself. And it is up to you to decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you at the end of the day, right? Like, it's whatever you want for you. Now, that being said, it is a very complex topic in terms of what 50-50 could mean, because 50-50 could mean a variety of different things to different people. Some people could say, well, the husband provides and then the wife cooks, cleans, and is at home and she's with the kids. You know, that could mean that for somebody. There's so many definitions of what defines a 50-50 relationship or what defines a relationship in general, because everybody has their own set of rules for what that means, right? But for me specifically, I came from a 50-50 relationship in terms of finances. And in terms of the home and kids, it was like 80-20, right? In terms of my marriage, right? I will never, ever go back to a 50-50 relationship in terms of finances, ever. I want to find somebody and be with somebody that is fully capable of providing for me and giving me a better life than I can give myself. If you cannot give me a better life than I can give myself, then I don't have time for you. Because if I can give myself more than you can give me, then I don't want it. Why? Because in my experience and in being married, it caused a lot of problems in terms of like him being emasculated, right? And when a man feels emasculated, then it creates insecurity, right? No fault of his own, you know, like, but again, it creates an insecurity because he feels emasculated because now I'm making more money, right? Or I'm at this level and you're at this level. And that creates him being emasculated. When a man is emasculated, he is incapable of making decisions. He is incapable of leading. And then that causes bigger problems because then that makes the woman start to be more in her masculine energy than thriving in her feminine energy. So now she's making decisions. Now she's carrying the stress of the house. And that's not a life I want anymore.
Yeah.
That's not a life I want for myself. I want a life full of peace. And I only want somebody who can provide for me more than I can give myself. Now, does that mean that I'm going to stop working or that I'm not going to contribute anything? No. But I don't want it to be a requirement. You should be able to give me the life that I have now without it requiring my contribution for myself. And yes, that's probably going to mean that it's going to take me some time to meet the right person. But I have full faith that God has that person for me. And I have full faith and patience to wait for that person. If that means I got to date a couple frogs, weed them out or whatever, guess what? I'm one step closer to meeting the person that's going to fulfill my needs, because God's not going to tell me, nope. He knows exactly what I need and what I want and what is going to allow me to thrive to fulfill my full purpose, you know? And so I want that for myself. That's what I define it as. That I don't want a 50-50 relationship in terms of finances. But I'm never going to stop working.
Yeah.
I love working. I love what I do. I love to work, and I'm always going to have an income regardless. I'm always going to have an income, but I would like my income to be an added bonus. And then there are men out there, ladies, there are men out there who literally don't give a shit about your check. They don't care what you make. They don't want it. Like, they don't care. They're like, keep it, whatever. Like, that's the kind of life I want. And they exist. They're in my comments. Even the men are in my comments that are like, oh, I do that for my wife. My wife works and I don't even know what she makes. Like, she keeps all her money, you know, and whatever, you know. And there's women in my comments too that have expressed that their husbands like never ask them for a dime. You know, that's the kind of life that I want. And I know what my value is. And I know that anything that a man puts before me or a man spends, I know how to multiply. You know, I know how to be a backbone. I know how to be strong. I'm not a toxic person. I'm not going to add stress to your life. Like, I'm in such a healed, positive space that I can only be an addition to your life, you know? And I want that same balance so that I can fully thrive in that feminine energy and be a safe place for you, in a place where you could be vulnerable. And in turn, I feel safe and protected and provided for. You know what I mean? So I feel like I said, it's a very complex topic and it has a lot of different meanings for a lot of different people, but that's what I mean for myself. I know you have questions, so.
No, yeah. So I also said the same thing. Uh, like if I was with somebody, and if they wanted, knowing me, and the type of person that I am, I know I'm gonna get with somebody who's also a hustler. So I know they're gonna be grinding. So it can't, like, if she wanted to stay home with the kids, like, or if we had kids or whatever, cool. That works with me. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm still gonna hustle. I'm still gonna grind. I'm still gonna do my thing. If you want to go out and work and like do your own thing, cool, do your thing. Like, I don't, like, I'm worried about like growing this and like providing for whatever, you know what I mean? Like building this company, doing this. If you want to work, cool. If you don't want to work, cool. That's cool too. But it did take a little bit to get to that spot. You know what I mean? Like, I remember living paycheck to paycheck, and it was stressful. And then we had the businesses, of course, during that time, they were doing amazing. Like, the money was just coming in, and I was spending it like crazy, which, stupid mistake. I was spending it like crazy because I'm like, it's going to keep coming in. Like, that's when I learned a valuable financial lesson during those times.
Can I pause you there?
Yeah.
So that's another point. I think people have to understand where I am in life, too, and why my standard is that. Because I'm 34 years old. I've already built a multi-million-dollar business. I've already done X, Y, and Z. My accolades speak for themselves. You know what I mean? So I'm not in my 20s.
Yeah.
So if I was in my 20s in a relationship, then yeah, of course my ideals are going to be like, let's build together until you get to a place where you can fully provide for us. You know, it's different. It's different based on where you are. Now, you're in another place, so you're not necessarily looking, per se, for a woman that's like, oh, how can she build with me together? You know, like, you're going to look at her character because you don't want a deadbeat girl because you're over here hustling like that, but not necessarily because you need to make ends meet. And I think that's also a big factor.
It's funny.
Of like where you are.
So I want to get your input on this. So I actually got shitted on not too long ago because I said this, not on TikTok. I didn't say it on TikTok, but I said it to somebody because they were trying to shoot their shot with me, right? And I was just like, you know what? You're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I was like, but we're just in two different places in life. I was like, and you're looking for an out. You know, you're looking for an out. And don't get me wrong. This girl was gorgeous. But I told my buddy who, like, ended up not going with this girl because obviously I didn't like that she worked at a fast food restaurant place, right? And so I was like, imagine if the roles were flipped. I was like, imagine her working, like, doing what I'm doing, and me working at the fast food. I was like, do you think she would give me the time of day? And he was like, no. I was like, so what? Like, why do I have to give her the time of day? I was like, if I know what I want a girl who's a hustler, like, knows what she wants, great communication, is doing her own thing, not necessarily, hey, like, let's do my thing, like, forget your thing. Like, whatever she's doing, whether it be like trying to build her career, like, even if it's like fitness, like busy with something, I was like, because now she's gonna understand why I pull long hours, why I do what I do. But I got shitted on by her because she's like, oh, you're like, she used, like, I was degrading what she was doing for a living. I was like, no, it's not even that. I was like, if the roles were switched, you wouldn't give me the time of day. I was like, let's be honest.
And okay, so these are stemmed, again, your ideals are stemmed from your experiences, right? And where you've gotten to this place in life, right? So, but then there's no saying that there would be another type of guy that has had a different type of life, or maybe hasn't worked as hard as you to get to where he is, or maybe has made 25 times what you make, and he wouldn't mind taking her out of that and just making her a princess at home because he was like, I can do that for you, you know? So, she can wait for that, you know? You can wait for that because there are men who will do that. There's somebody for everybody, you know? And there are men who will do that. If she's looking for a meal ticket and she's patient enough, there's a man who would, if he's, there's, I mean, I know you've heard the stories of like actors who have met waitresses and now their wives and these wives become, you know what I mean? Like, it's for everybody. And, but at the same token, like, I don't feel that you should settle for your less for yourself as well. Like, I feel like you should always be adding value to yourself. So I also feel, again, on your side too, in terms of like you working at a fast food restaurant, like, girl, we're in our, late 20s and you're still doing this. Like, what have you done with the rest of your life? Because you want somebody to add value to your life. But then that's in your case, but then there'll be a man whose only value that he needs for a woman is to be his arm candy. And he can do everything else, and that is, so it's all, this is why I feel like this topic is so complex, because it's all situational. It's all based on what you want and what you're willing to wait for and what you're not willing to accept and what you are willing to accept. Like for me, I don't cook and I don't clean and I won't do that. And I won't, and I'm not going to, that's not something I'm going to sugarcoat. Like, I have a housekeeper and I buy meal prep. And I like to eat out. And it's very rare that you'll see me in the kitchen. I can do it, but it's not my thing. And I don't like that. And so somebody who is going to choose to be with me is going to have to be okay with that. And a lot of people attack me for that too. Like, oh, you're never going to find somebody. Well, the funny thing is that I dated a guy recently that didn't like anything out of the ordinary. Like, literally his freaking diet was like chicken strips, like burgers, like the simplest things. So it's not true that a woman has to cook. And I had asked him about his previous relationship. And I was like, well, with your ex-wife or whatever, like, he's like, yeah, dude, my mom would trip and be like, oh, she doesn't even cook for you. And he's like, don't worry about her not cooking for me because I don't give a shit. I'd rather go to Tom's. I'd rather go buy a burger and fries, So it's a crock of shit. Like, everybody wants to push whatever agenda they want to push on you. And it's like, no, you're entitled and to want whatever you want for your life, and there will be somebody who fits that.
Yeah, it's funny because that's how my mom is. Like, she's like, you need to find someone who cooks and cleans, like this is and that. Like they lived like the whole. I was supposed to be married and had kids, had the white picket fence, like a family, a 9 to 5 by like 24. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But but that's never like that's never been my mindset. I'm like, why? Like, and then the more I've been hanging out with more people who make way more than me, and I'm like, bro, like you learn how to level up. And that was the cool thing, because before my ex was making way more than me, and instead of me being insecure, I was like, how do I level up? Like, how do I get better? Like, because this is not working. Like, whatever I'm doing, whatever I was taught over here is not working. Like, let me do this, and then slowly, like, I hang around with people who are doing like really well, and I just like learn. I just learn like how to level up, and that takes time. That takes time, and that's why I'm like, I want someone who has goals, like has a purpose in their life. Like they want to do something, even if it's not like something new. Like some of the first things that I ask girls on first dates is like, like, what's your short-term goals? Like, what's your 5-year goals? And they're like, you really asked that? I was like, yeah, because I'm not trying to waste my time. I'm not trying to waste her time. I'm like, I remember a girl told me, she's like, well, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, this dinner's on me. Don't worry about it. I was like, but after this, I was like, we out. Like, I'm out. And it just, you learn over time, like, what you want, and you're not going to settle for less. That's why I always tell people not to settle for less, because I've been single for a little over 2 years now, and I'm in no hurry to find somebody. I'm not like, hey, like, let's date. Hey, be my girlfriend. Hey, like, no, like, any little red flag I see, I'm like, I'm out. And I'm sorry for like the people who like I've talked to, but the moment you give me a red flag, the moment I feel like, oh shit, what was that? I'm out. I was like, because I don't want no negativity. Whoever I'm with, I want to be able to like fully trust you, like fully like know that you're the right person. Of course, nobody is perfect at the end of the day, but like, there's just some things that some people do. You're just like, yeah, no, that's not.
No.
And I know you were recently talking about red flags. So a question that I had for you is like, what are some red flags that you see when you go on dates?
Oh my gosh!
Because some of these men are wilding.
Yes. So I think that I have really, really, really learned to watch people's actions now. So I had a boyfriend post my marriage, and then after him, I dated, and a little bit before him, I dated too. And I think progressively over time now, I have really learned to watch actions rather than words. So, for example, a big red flag to me is if you're not a leader, right? If you can't take initiative. So if you are not taking that initiative to say, I'm going to see you on Tuesday, like, then that's already telling me about your character. Like, you don't have that in you to have initiative. So then I start thinking big picture. Okay, he doesn't have the initiative, so at the bare minimum, ask me on a date within a couple of days of talking to me, right? So if he doesn't have that initiative, then he's going to lack the initiative to plan dates, to plan things that are important to me, to pay attention to detail. So, like, I now observe all of these things because these little things are big things later. They're big things later. And so now I observe. A big thing for me is leadership mentality, right? So I ask about your life. So I ask questions like, in your previous relationship, or let's say at work, for example, what do you do at work? You know, if you tell me that you've been in the same position for 10 years, then that tells me that you have no leadership. You have no desire to elevate. You have no desire to grow. You're okay with being stagnant. You like complacency. I don't want a complacent person. I don't want somebody that doesn't know how to lead, because I don't want to lead. I want to lead, or I want you to lead and I want to follow. So I observe all of these things. Like, I observe scenarios. I observe the way that you move. That's the way that I analyze red flags. I know a lot of these red flag things too could be very generational, because like some people say like Snapchat is like a red flag. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, why is Snapchat a red flag? Like, I don't know, you know? But in the younger generation, it's like a thing, you know, or maybe even in ours, but I just never experienced that, or maybe because talking to like older men, I just never experienced that Snapchat is like a red flag, you know? Mm-hmm. So again, I think it's generational too, but I think for me, it's more like these bigger things. Like, do you show initiative? Do you show leadership? Do you show integrity? Do you show respect? How do you express yourself about like the women in your family, whether it's your daughter or your mom or your ex-wife? How do you express yourself about your exes? You know, what are the things that you say about women in your life? Then that's going to tell me a lot about your character, you know, rather than just what you say.
Yeah.
Watching how you.
And I'm glad you bring up actions, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of these girls, like, they're like, oh, how long before, like, some of these questions, I'm like, girl, like, are you serious? How long before, like, we've been talking for 5 months and he hasn't asked me on a date? And I'm like, girl, like, if you were in front of me, I'd probably slap you, okay? Like, just because, like, we need to knock some sense into you. If a guy is interested in you, when I'm interested in a girl, like, say I meet a girl, I'm like, oh, dang, like, I get her number and so on. I'm going to try to hang out with her as soon as possible, because I don't want her to find somebody else. What was that?
It's not competition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so so this is why I tell him, I was like, you're probably not on top of the roster, because I remember when I had my little rosters going on, like, if number one was like, yo, let's hang out, clear the schedule, like, we hanging out, like, I don't care what happens. If number 3 is like, hey, like, can we hang out? I'm like, yeah, maybe. I'll let you know. Like, well, I'll let you know on the weekend. But it's hard, because this is why I'm trying to help him. I was like, I was that. I'll say I was that piece of shit that I was doing that to girls, and that's why I own up to it now. And right now I do get not a lot, but I do get messages from guys that tell me to shut up, just because one guy, he got in trouble because his roster got exposed off his phone. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, I'm like, not every guy is like this, but I was like, but a lot of guys are like this. Like, a lot of guys, like, trust me, if there's one guy, he's like, man, you need to stop talking shit. He's like, I don't have a roster. I was like, bro, I can tell you don't have a roster. Like, I'm not trying to be rude. I was like, I can tell you don't have a roster. I was like, it's a little hard.
Yeah.
And so,
I feel it.
So I'm glad you bring up these red flags, just because I want guys to be a little bit more, communicate more with these ladies. And then these ladies also to be able to see some of these red flags and know that something little in the beginning is gonna be big later on. If you see them like somewhat like when they play around getting mad that someone liked your stuff, like, oh, who was that? Oh, I'm just playing. Oh, no, no, no. Like that's, he really felt that. And then later on, trust me, if you get in a relationship with that person, he's going to be like, who is that guy? Like, and so like,
it's bigger.
and that's why just like you, I pay attention to all of these little red flags in the beginning. Like why'd you do that? Like that's kind of weird. Like that's instantly I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I went on a date and some girl she was on her phone most of the time, and I'm like, I'm here. I asked you out on a date to hang out with you, to get to know you. So to me, I feel like I reserved from like 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. to get to know you. You could have told whoever, hey, I'm going to be out. I'm going to be doing this. Sometimes I do get business calls, but I let them know ahead of time. I'm like, sometimes I do get a business call or a text that I have to respond to right away, but I'll let you know. I was like, but for the most part, never on my phone. But she was just like scrolling on her phone, and I'm like, am I that boring? Like, you know what I mean? Like, am I that boring? After that, I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't care how hot you are. Like, this girl was gorgeous, and like, if you would see her, you'd be like, damn, like you got her. I don't know. Well, maybe she wasn't looking at me when she said yes, but she was probably looking at her phone. But I was like, I was like, some of these girls, like you have to pay attention to a lot of these things, and don't just assume the first person you go on a date with, that's the person. Like that's who you're gonna focus on. And that's where a lot of people like make a mistake. They'll think, oh, this person asked me on a date. This guy is like the one guy I'm supposed to focus on. No, like, go on a date with him. Go on a date with this guy too. If you like this guy more, okay, like come back, go on a date with this guy. Like, there's no reason to be like, oh, we've been talking for 2 weeks and he wants to be. That's another red flag. Like, how are you gonna date for 2 weeks and then all of a sudden ask to be girlfriend and boyfriend? I'm like, how? Like, how? Like, you barely even know this person. Like, you probably don't even know like their freaking passwords to their Netflix. Like, and things like that. People jump the gun. They're too worried about finding someone. I think what's helped me a lot, I don't know if it's helped you, is I got used to being alone. You know what I mean? Like,
I love
exactly. And I know you talked about it. You touched on that earlier. Yeah, like I'm always alone. Like 98% of the day, I'm alone. If it's not with clients, somebody I'm working with, I'm alone. I'm alone in my studio. I'm alone at home. I'm alone. And I like being alone. At first, when I first started doing it, yeah, it did get. You're like, man, I wish like somebody to talk to. But then eventually you learn how to keep yourself busy. You focus more. Like, and now I'm sure you have your kids that you take a lot of your attention up. Like, especially when you have them. So dating. I know we've been going for a while. I don't want to take too much more of your time.
I'm good. Okay.
All right, because there's just a lot of topics that I want to touch on, just because we do talk about similar topics. So,
well, to end with the dating, yeah, just the dating part. Like, just be very careful with not romanticizing somebody to be what you want them to be just because you're attracted to them physically. Because I think that's another big mistake that we do, and again, driven by ego. That we want to romanticize somebody, especially women do this for men, that we want to like, oh no, but he opened my door, or like we just like, or we try to make something bigger out of something so small because we want it so bad, And I think that's the one feeling that you should always pay attention to, is like when you start to want it so bad, because then that's telling you already like, why do you should question yourself at that point. Why do you want this so bad? Mm-hmm. Like, why do you keep romanticizing this so much? And that's what I'm saying, like, just focus more on like their actions, and that'll tell you more about their character when you're dating. And I haven't had the best dating experiences myself.
Same.
Like just dating, dating is just a crock of shit. Like, I can't. Like, this is too much. Like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like, and I almost want to not date. Like, I almost would rather just spend those 2 hours with people I actually like, and like, or by myself.
Yeah.
Go on some of these dates, because it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't. And go ahead.
It's funny. I went, like I said, I'm a little over 2 years being single, but I have gone on dates, and sometimes I'm just like, yeah, this is why I'm single. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
especially like some of the things they do, and then all of a sudden, like, you tell somebody, hey, I went on a date with this person, and be like, oh shit, like she's over here, like she's hanging out with this person and this person. Like, I'm just like, I'm good. Like, I'm not here to compete with nobody. Like, I know what I bring to the table. If you want to go and like mess around with a bunch of different dudes, I was like, I'm good.
My last date, I told all my friends after that, I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not saying we're fucking done with this shit. He didn't have any kids, and he's like, oh, do you want kids? Like, this is a big deal to me. And I was like, no, I have 3 already. I don't want any more. I don't want no baby daddies, nothing. Like, 1 is enough. I'm good. I don't want any more. And then, like, we still kept the conversation going. And then, like, major red flag. He was like, well, like, I mean, I wouldn't mind, like, being a stepdad instead. And I'm like, dude, like, are you that desperate? Like, you know that you want a child of your own. And he's like, well, it's because you're just so beautiful. And, like, like, I get it, like, that you don't want any. And maybe I'm at the age where I just need to accept that I'm not going to have any. It's like, no, you fucking don't. Like, I'm just not for you. Like, where I'm at and where you're at, we're 2 different people. And that's cool. Like, we can finish our dinner, enjoy, have our drink, and then go our separate ways and just decide, like, this isn't for you. Because the reality is that you do want a kid of your own. And I don't want any. And that's just point blank. Don't romanticize this. Even men do it. See?
Yeah.
Like, you're romantic. Oh, because I have kids. Well, maybe you could just be a stepdad. Like, no, motherfucker, you want kids. And I'm not going to give you, so this is not going to work. It's just, like, stop romanticizing. Stop making it more than what it is. Stop trying to put your own little story. Just take it from point blank. It's very fucking black and white.
Yeah.
And that's, like, dude, if guys are this retarded still in their fucking late 30s, like, that you're willing to compromise the desire of being a father for a girl because she's beautiful.
It's funny because I get this question all the time, like, do I want kids? And I'm just like, I'm. If it happens, it happens. That's what I tell them. I'm in no hurry to get kids. I've dated girls with kids, and I know what comes with that. And it sucks because, like, sometimes when you do date some of these girls that have kids, you get attached to the kids. I get attached to kids because I love kids, whether it be my, like, nephews. I love them to death. Like, just the kids, like my friends' kids and stuff like that. I love kids. Like, I love being around them. They're cool. And so I get really attached to kids. That's why sometimes I'm like, they're like, oh, like, we're going to go do this. And I'm like, fuck, do I really want to get involved? Because then if it doesn't work out, because I remember the last girl that I did date that had kids, that detachment was hard, like, because you get so used to this kid, and I love kids. And so it was hard. I was more worried about the kid than her, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel it.
and so,
Yeah, I feel it.
and so guys should be upfront too. Like, guys should be upfront. Like, if you really, like, inside, if you're like, okay, yeah, I want a kid, let them know, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't want kids and he wants a kid, it's probably not going to work out, because, like, you're going to bring up the conversation now or later, and then now it's going to be a fight later on because you're so like, hey, no, like, I got 3, I'm good, we're good. And he's going to be like, well, 1 more, what about me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just those arguments.
If you're dating with intention, because there's 2 different types of dating, right? There's dating because you're dating for fun and you're just trying to go out, have fun, get drunk, eat, whatever. But if you're dating with intention, be sure you're clear about what your intentions are and what exactly it is that you want. And don't waver from what it is that you want, because that's when you set yourself up for failure. Stick to what you want. If you want more kids, you don't, cool, bye. You want to travel the world, I don't. I want a white picket fence. This ain't gonna fucking work. Go. Like, next. If you're dating with intention, because now you're just gonna continue with your fucking time, and you're gonna try to mold somebody to be whatever you want them to be, and vice versa. And it's just not gonna fucking work.
Yeah,
it's just not.
That's what I always tell them, is like, don't try to, like, especially some of these questions that I get too, like, because I know a lot of these girls are gonna listen. Is like, they always say, like, hey, is this person gonna change? No, because what happens a lot of the times, like, when I go on a date with somebody, I talk the way I talk. I'm gonna curse. I'm gonna make my jokes. I'm a goof. I know how to be serious when I need to be serious, but I'm gonna be me. If you don't like me, cool. It's not gonna work. This is how. Like, I'm not gonna try to, because before guys will try to portray like they're this perfect person. They don't swear. They have like a career going. They have goals and so on and so forth, and they don't. They're just putting on this front just to impress the girl. For what? To hook up with the girl. Come on, guys. Like, I've been there. I've done that. But now, like, when you're actually focused on stuff, you're like focused and you know what you want. Like, I know what I want. Like, if you don't bring that to the table, then guess what? We're not gonna work. Like, I'm just sorry. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I had a couple questions. Like, now that you're like back on the dating scene, where do you go? Because this is a popular question. They're like, oh, well, where do I go to find a good guy? Uh, should I go on a date with a guy on social media? Should I go? I always give the advice, because if you go to a bar, you're not gonna find the right person. If you go to the club, you're not gonna find the right person. Like, because they're there. Because I just from experience, when I would go to the clubs and bars, it's to find a girl to hook up with. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going there to be like find a lifelong partner. So where do you try to find some guys to date?
I feel like that's debatable, what you just said. I feel, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like anywhere and everywhere is a possibility to meet somebody. Where do you go? I have no fucking clue. Where do you go? I have no fucking clue. I have tried a dating app. I have tried social media, like, or meeting somebody through social media. And the more I have developed who I am, I don't want to date any guy that has any social media, or if he does, he has to have like the bare minimum of a social media, that he just exists because he follows his friends and he watches like fucking wrestling or some shit, like the bare minimum. For me, that's my standard, right? But I'd have to disagree with you on the bar, the club, and etc. Because at least at my age, right? 30 plus, 35 plus, dating 35 plus, right? Because I get it for like 20-year-old guys, not in the bar, not at the club, because they're just trying to see where they can hit, what they can smash, or whatever. But because of my age range and because my family members, my guy cousin, my brother, and they're good guys and they're looking for real relationships, and we go out a lot. So if they were to meet somebody at a bar, a club, that's literally where you're going to find us. You're going to find us at a rave. We're going to a rave this weekend. You're going to find us at a rave. You're going to find us at a club. You're going to find us at a bar, because we like to go out and have fun. And it doesn't make us any less me. I think I am a fucking catch. And where do I go? I go to raves. I go to clubs. I go to bars. That's what I do, And you can find me at fucking Home Goods at Target, fucking Chipotle.
But
you can find there too.
But would you take a guy seriously that approached you at the bar? Like, say he,
I would.
like,
I would. I'm gonna observe you.
Mm.
It's gonna take me some time to observe you. Of course, I'm not off the first date. I'm not gonna be able to see everything about you. But in a course of like 3 months and dating you, I am gonna see how you move. I am gonna see what you're about. I am gonna see if you're in your bag. I am gonna see more about your character. So yeah, I would give you a fair chance, because again, my cousin, good man. He's my age. He's a good man. Ambitious, goals, businesses, working on himself. Like, he's just a good man, period. And what he likes to do on the weekend, we go out, we go have drinks at the bar, we go to the club because we love fucking music, and we love to rave. We literally buy every freaking rave and after party. And you'll find us there from dusk till dawn, okay? But he's a good man. Like, and a girl who were to meet him would have hit the lottery, because he's a good man. So if he exists and he does the same things that I like to do, then there's somebody that exists that I can meet potentially. And that's why I would give anybody anywhere a fair chance. Now, again, this is my age group though. So 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40,
Yeah.
I think for 20s, if you're 25, he's just starting and bumping at the club. Like, you don't know how to keep that shit in there in his pants or what. Again, age also kind of makes a difference,
So that's actually, I'm glad you bring that up, because that's actually another thing I wanted to talk to you about, just because we're the same age. I usually don't date girls that are younger than me, just because I never tell people, hey, like, because I remember when I was in my 20s, right? Going out, partying, hanging out, doing the thing, like, not really caring about shit. That's where I was at. I was like, yes, you can find someone who is younger and is more mature. I was like, me, it's more about where their mindset is at, just because that's way bigger than me than like what, like, I want to know where they're at mindset. Because I remember I did go on a date with a girl. She was like, I think she was like 22. And you can
Oh,
instantly the conversation you can tell was immature. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh wow, like this is not it. This is why I don't go on dates with like girls that are younger. So that's why I was like, I would prefer to have like go on dates or be with somebody who has experienced life. That's how I explain it. I was like, I want somebody who's experienced life, has experienced downs, ups, like you name it, traveled a little bit, been with different partners, so they know what they want. Like, instead of being like with someone who hasn't had a serious boyfriend or just been like one serious boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like, you run into those issues. So would age play a big factor for you?
yes. Now, yes. I did date younger, and I don't have anything against younger, but if it were to be younger, it can only be like 2 years, maybe, if that, and you would have to be like on another level of secure, like on another level, like top notch secure. But I don't think that I would want to date younger. If I were to make an exception, it would be that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Years, and that's it. But my desire, no. I would prefer somebody who's between my age and like 5 years older than me max. Mm-hmm. You know, because I feel like we have experienced some similar things already. Maybe divorce, kids, you know, career, things like that. You know, so
yeah. See, that's what people don't understand, because there was another girl who was trying to get me to go on a date with her, and she was 24. And I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with you. I was like, you're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I was like, it's just, I don't feel like
what would you guys talk about?
Exactly. Like, that's the biggest thing, is like, we don't have nothing to talk about because you haven't really experienced life. Like, I've lived a hell of a life, right? Like, I've gone through ups and downs. I've got shot at. I've gotten stabbed. I've gotten like robbed. I've almost robbed. I've traveled by myself, like seen some sketchy shit. What have you done? Like, you went to college, partied, like.
It's you don't have any real basis of a relationship, like any real foundation to have any like discussions, really, because it's like your lives are so different, you know, and like where you've been is so different, and maybe like her desires as opposed to your desires, and where your mentality is so different. It just doesn't work. Like, that's way freaking young.
Yeah, and like me, like I mentioned earlier, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of documentaries. Like, when I'm editing, I listen to audiobooks and stuff, so I can have a conversation in a lot of different areas. I may not be an expert in a lot of different areas, but I can hold a conversation on a lot of things. And so when you're a lot younger, like, even just based off experience, like, you say, oh, hey, like, this happened. I'm like, oh, dang, like, this happened to me too, you know, like, but this, like, it went this way. And then you have something to talk about, and then you guys both learned from that situation, and you can grow from there. And then they're just like, oh, dang, that's crazy. And you're just like, I was like, oh, cool, like, I'm out. Like,
yeah. I feel it. Yeah.
What was the youngest you had dated?
4 years. 4 years.
And it was
so
not
my ex 4 years younger than me. It wasn't necessarily his age. That was the issue, I would say, because in terms of like emotional maturity to have like real conversations, he had some of the best communication that I had experienced based on like my ex-husband to that. But then over time, progressively, it's like the places that we were at in life were just two very different places, and there were still things that he needed to mature in and like work on his own. Mm-hmm. That couldn't be done, you know, because then it became more of like a motherly role than like a relationship role. You know, it was more like, I'm being here for you to evolve, and it's like, that's not what I wanted, you know? I wanted to be in a relationship with relationship. Like, I don't want to help you evolve,
Yeah.
you know, or like come to be who you need to be, you know, like that's things that you need to work on your own. And that was like affecting the overall relationship. Like, he's a great person and everything, and we're friends, you know. But it's just in terms of relationship, it just didn't work.
Did you
You know?
did you feel like he was a rebound?
No, because I was completely over my kid's father, so I don't feel like I was in a rebound place. I was in a place of like genuinely looking for connection, period. Or not looking, but if it were to happen, like connection, period. You know, like actually even now to this day, like connection, period. Or not mejor sola, better alone than in bad company.
Yeah.
You know? But it's more so connection and like feeling actually like loved and taken care of by a man. And he definitely did do that. Like from making me breakfast to little surprises to words of affirmation. You know, the things that I had always desired out of a relationship, he provided that in a way that I had never experienced before. And he taught me a lot about love, you know, a lot about like love and like actual communication in a relationship and stuff. But it got to there. That's it. You know, it's like you get not, I think that people need to detach themselves from expecting everybody to be the one. It's like some people you're going to meet and they're going to teach you some things about yourself, and you're going to learn some more things about what you want and what you don't want. And then you're going to take that to the next place, you know, and learn to be okay with like letting things go. You don't have to let things go ugly. You don't have to let things go savagely. You can just decide, you know what, I think that we've come to the end of our journey, you know, and let's go. And I want to go this way, and I think that you want to go that way, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were friends with him. So my stand, of course, everybody's stance is different. That's why I always tell people everybody is different. Like I'm the way I am, and I'm not going to change. If whether you like it or not, cool. So anytime I break, like if we were official,
Mm-hmm.
and we break up, I'm
Mhm.
blocking you. I'm getting rid of
Mhm.
all your stuff. Like we ain't talking. We ain't friends. What are your thoughts of being friends with ex? Baby daddies is different.
Yeah. Okay. So he said that he was that person too, and he found it very difficult to do that to me because there was no like bad blood or anything like that. And for myself too, being that was my only official boyfriend post my marriage, it was hard for me to completely say, you know what, block, done, don't ever call me, etc. Like, because it didn't end ugly. It ended with full love and understanding. Like, I released you with love. Is it difficult to have a friendship? Yes, it is. It is difficult to have a friendship with somebody that you dated and that you were in a relationship with, because you have to establish a new boundary. And that's hard,
Yeah.
because then you're, oh shit, like I don't have access to you, like shit, oh, did you go out and meet somebody? And like you get those little crazy moments, you know, or whatever. So it's definitely hard, but I think over time we were able to get to a place where like it's just kind of like good communication. But even then, I think that we've gotten to a place where it's like there's things that we want to do in our lives that we just really can't maintain the same level of friendship of like daily communication or like hope you're having a good day. There has to be like a boundary. I don't think that I could ever block somebody unless you did something to me that was hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just not in me to do that, to be like block, you know. I don't know, unless it ended like so horribly. I'm just that person that, because I'm not a reactive person, I'm not a toxic person, so it's very hard for me. It's very hard for me to even like walk away from something, and like even though I actually just ghosted somebody, but it's very hard for me to escape from something and like not tell you like, hey, I just want you to know, like I felt like X, Y, and Z, and you know, like without expressing my feelings, you know.
Yeah, true.
But I think that it is hard, and I think that it takes two people to respect boundaries to even be able to have a friendship. And even with that, it's almost like you're just dragging on the inevitable. That at the end of the day, you guys are going to have to just cut ties. Because if I get into a relationship with somebody else, like, why are you friends with your ex-boyfriend?
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I was about to ask you right now. Like, what if the roles were flipped? They gave you the same explanation that they ended on good terms. Like, there's nothing to think about. Would you be okay with the guy being friends with their ex?
It's a no for me. It's a no for me. So, right. So we both, again, have that understanding. But then it's like we had this conversation where it's like, hey, but if you do meet somebody, like, then you're going to have to tell me. And it's like, how do I have that conversation with you? How do I tell you that I've been dating somebody for 3 months and then I'm going to take it serious and I can't talk to you anymore? And like this whole time that we've been in communication or we've been cool, like I've never told you, you know? So it's like, it's very, very, on the fence. But if I could give anybody advice on this, is to just cut all ties. Cut all ties, not necessarily block, and maybe you could be like, hey, I hope that you're doing okay every couple of months, but just cut ties.
No,
because it makes.
Yeah,
I know you're. Yeah,
I'm more on the like. It's. I'm done, just because I'm thinking more of like the next person, like whoever I'm gonna date next. I don't want you to feel like I'm over here still talking to this person. I don't want you to feel some certain be like, oh, why are you still talking to that person? Like what? No, like we had our thing, didn't work out. Cool. No communication, no ties, no nothing. Like it's all about me and you now. Like that's where I like to be at, you know. And even
like just clear.
Mm-hmm. And so it's a little bit harder. That's why I said like it's a little like when I date girls that have kids, I need to know what type of relationship you have with the father. Not because I'm trying to be nosy, just because no, you guys shouldn't be going to lunch, you know, like together, hanging out, spending the night at his house. Like, no, those are things like I'm not cool with. Like if you got to go to parent teacher conference, cool. If there's a basketball game, cool. If there's like things like that, I understand. I'm not jealous type. Go handle your business. But like other little things, like I remember an ex, she was like, "Oh, we have to go and do that." I'm like, "Why? Like, what's the point of that?"
Like,
And so that's why I want whoever I'm with to be like, hey, like he has nothing to do with them. Good to go there. So, we've gone 2 hours. I'll let you go here in a little bit. I just want to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
And it's based off the question that I originally found you.
Okay.
I don't know how to ask it because I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. But have you have you had guys ask you to eat their booty?
Dude. Thank God, never in my life, and I hope that never in my life does that happen because I would be stuck. I would just be like, wait, what's happening? Another thing though is that I never, being that I've been single and everything, I don't get to the level of intimacy with anybody unless there's like some, like if there's a commitment. So I've only been with one person post my kid's dad, which was my boyfriend. So I've never gotten there. So I don't think that I opened that door for them to be like that. I don't know, you know, like oh.
Okay, I want you to be real too. Say you find this man. Everything you want him to be, he's perfect, but the only requirement is that he wants to spread them cheeks.
I'm not eating that.
Yeah, I don't know how people do this because I was like, what? So one of the questions that I just recently got is like, this guy liked to get his taint played with. And I'm like, what?
What is that?
It's the part between the hole and the balls.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why? Like, what is she doing down there? Like, what are you getting from that? Like, at all? Like, so
I'm not going to your fucking butt bush, like, or whatever rim thing you got going on. And I've seen all the TikToks of the guys who didn't even know they had to wash their crack. Like, oh no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
a lot of these guys are just. That's why, like, I did some videos with Pete and Pedro because they do a ball thing, which keeps you like nice and dry down there. Because we all go out. Like I always tell the guys, like we go out, we know how it is. Like say you go to the bar, even if you're not dancing, it gets hot, you get a little like musty, like. And if you're gonna hook up with somebody, you would not appreciate it if you went down on the girl and it was just like bad, like.
Yeah.
And so.
Of course not.
And then another poll that I had on my Instagram was like, I hope a lot of guys did answer. I was like, do you guys wash up in there like every time you shower? And a lot of people answered that they just let the water drip down and like call that good. Like, and I'm like, yeah, that's not that's not doing it.
Like, I don't know how the girls have the courage to do this, and I know girls that just do it. Like, it's very European-esque for me. I'm like, go to Europe, y'all.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Not here. Yeah. Not here. I'm not doing.
Yeah, because I had a bad experience. Like this girl, she like stunk down there, and I was like, yeah, nope, that's not happening. Like it's bad down there. Like
it's a little moldy.
It's a little stinky down here. Like I don't think I can do it without gagging. Like
it's a little cheesy, no thanks.
But anyway, I want to thank you for jumping on and talking with me. I know you didn't have to. You took some time out of your day, which I really appreciate, and I'm extremely grateful for. Hopefully, I can talk with you in the future again, and keep doing what you're doing because you're killing it. I'm watching it. I'm rooting for you. I love to see women like kill it out here, especially women, because everyone thinks like, oh, she's a girl, she can't be doing that. No, girls, you guys have all the power too to like go out there and kill it harder than the guys do. So I appreciate you for that. Thank you for jumping on.
I appreciate you for having me. Thank you. I hope that whatever we talked about gives people some form of advice, I guess, or that it helps somebody or it makes a difference for somebody. That's really all I care about. So I'm really thankful for you giving me a voice on your platform. Maybe not everybody on your platform knows who I am. And so thank you for allowing me to use my voice on yet another place. I appreciate that.
No, yeah, and thank you. It's funny because the question is going to be like, who likes to get their taint played with? Like, the whole podcast, and that's all you got was the whole taint thing. Like, are you serious? So, anyways, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. See you guys.
Here we go down the rabbit hole. Got a couple carrots around my neck. Self-respect. When you out of line, you put yourself in check. They don't hear me. They don't.